Hello, everyone, and welcome to Comics News Today. My name is Chester C. Busby III, and I am joined by Denali. Hello, Denali. How you doing today?
Aloha. How's everybody?
And I'm also we are also joined by Booster from our, of course, down in New Zealand. He is our Kiwi and resident Kiwi, and he's also our pie expert. How you doing today, Booster?
Hey, let's get right into the news.
Yes.
I, I
Um,
stole that one.
You did steal that one, but that's all right, man. That's we want to pick up cues and we want to be cool about it, you know.
Yeah,
And Chad Middleton comes in and says, "Hello, hello," and I Jordan's here, "Hello, sir," and of course Joshua Hughes is here to claim the chat in the name of Cult of Raven. Thank you very much, sir. I always like get some people show up. All right, so let us go ahead and get into our intros and giving out the information that's going on FanSpeak. So, of course, once again, just to mention that our contest for the FanSpeak logo and the mascot is going on this month. The deadline is October 30th. So make sure you have those submissions in. And remember, the prize is we're going to put an advertisement for the fandom zones here, specifically FanSpeak, in an alternate comic, and we're taking a full page ad. So your art will actually be in a comic book, and we think that's a really cool prize. But those are the deadline for that. Once again, is October 30th, and on the 31st, we're going to have a Halloween show. And on the Halloween show, we're going to do a straw poll to choose the best art for the logo and the mascot. And we'll also be doing the Comics Titan fundraiser on that day. And the Comics Titan fundraiser is something that Pope Fire and Eric Ninotowski are doing together. And the idea is to raise some money, which they've already done and they're already starting to use, to help people in the community who don't have money to get some of these Indiegogo, indie Renaissance comic books that are coming out. It's a really nice thing to do. And all we're doing is buying raffle tickets. One raffle ticket is $3, and you get two for $5. And then on the Halloween show, we're going to have that raffle. And there's some cool prizes. There's comics. I even saw there's a Dungeons and Dragons book. There's statues. It's going to be a lot of fun. So go over to the Comics Titans fundraiser on Facebook, and you can get your raffle tickets there. Also, once again, remind you, we are doing podcasts on Anchor. We only got a couple. There's one more going to go up today or maybe tomorrow. And that's kind of cool. A lot of people enjoy podcasts. And the good thing about Anchor is it spreads out to all the other podcast sites. So we'll be able to be heard all over the place. And actually, I'm very surprised on how many people have listened to podcasts so far. It's pretty cool. And it's a way for us to expand and reach more people and get more people involved, which is our point here, right? And of course, don't forget that on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Bugbear's Basement. And this week we're doing a kind of a new format, and I think you guys are going to like it. We also have on Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the Drawn and Quartered Fan Edition. Now, we don't know what site that's going to be on right now. It rotates, but we'll tell you as soon as we do know. But that's a lot of fun. Also, this week is going to be a very interesting one for what we're doing here, guys. Um, this we had a vote sometime back here on FanSpeak, and we voted and did a straw poll, and everybody got involved, and we decided we wanted to call these channels the Fandom Zones. And one of the reasons it's good to do that is we're going to be changing this channel to a brand this week. And what that's going to let us do is get some of the other smaller fan sites, fan YouTube channels that are part of this community to be able to put content on this one place and make it kind of like a network center type of thing. And so the fandom zones will be changing over to the fandom zones, and just keep an eye on that. We'll tell you exactly the day that's happening. But you're going to see that shift this week, and it also lets us do a lot of cool things like we'll be able to use Streamlabs because my internet is upgrading, and there's all kind of cool things going on this week. This is a really cool week, and of course, also please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And one of the most important things to do is go down and hit that share button and share it out to all your friends to get everyone in here to communicate with us and tell us what's going on. So, of course, we're here to talk about the comics news today. And we have a few very interesting things. They're kind of continuation stories and a couple of other stuff. But one thing we wanted to do was address a question that came up yesterday we didn't deal with in the chat. And we thought it would be important to do that. Now, This community over here is called Comicsgate, right? I mean, there are people who call us Comicsgate. A lot of us in here take that name and call ourselves Comicsgate. But you know, the whole situation is Comicsgate, really. And of course, we are part of that. But the way I look at it is kind of like this, and this is kind of continuing with that Chuck Wendig story that everyone's been talking about this week. The thing with it is, you know, there's a group of people in the comic book industry and in media and in positions of power who believe that you either think exactly like they do or you are evil and must be put down and controlled. That's what they think. And then there's the rest of us. And that's how I look at it. The rest of us are what you would call the consumer side of Comicsgate. And that rest of us is a lot of different people, right? You have Christians and atheists and people of all racial backgrounds. There's people from all over the world. Look at this channel. You have someone that's in America, another one that's in New Zealand, and one is sitting in Japan, me, right? And we are very diverse, but we don't care about that. We're all here for the love of comic books,
Well,
and we're sick of what's being
straight
done.
white males.
Yeah, well, you know, and it's so for me, I don't separate it that into like that. That's how I look at it. This is not some little teeny group that is called Comicsgate. For me, those people on the other side who are just hateful and toxic and bullyish, they are Comicsgate, and we are everybody else. That's how I see it, because we're not alone. Anyone who loves comics, wants to be involved with comics, is with us, right? That's how I look at it personally. So why don't you go ahead, Denali, and tell people how do you see this whole Comicsgate thing? How do you see yourself in it?
I mean, I follow the principle behind it. You know, treating your customer with respect, treating the characters and legacy with respect, giving us good stories, not politicizing, you know, putting avert propaganda in the comics that kids, you know, even adults can point out and say, this doesn't make any sense. It seems more like a lecture than an entertainment piece. Um, and following with that, it's like I don't like being labeled whatever from any sides, and I feel like I'll continue holding Comicscape, but I feel like we should move past it. We can grow beyond it, and that's what I want to look for to the future. Not be beholden to what other people name us, but look to the future and grow beyond it, where we are so successful that it doesn't matter if we're comic skate or not. We love comics, and that's where we want to go forward with.
Mm. And before I jump over to Booster and get his opinion, Durkin has given his opinion here in the chat, and let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and read that. Durkin says it never works to change the name. The gate is an event. It's true. Same thing with Gamergate. It was a specific event, but everyone calls side that don't like the event Gamergate, which I think he's trying to say the side they don't like is Gamergate. And yeah, that's I guess it's what I just did, isn't it? But yeah, a gate is whatever gate is an event. You're right. I guess maybe it would be better for me to say that they are they are Comicsgate too. So how's that, Durkin? But I think we all understand what we're saying. I think our side is actually a lot bigger than theirs. It's just we are not as vocal. But thank you, Durkin. Booster, why don't you go ahead and tell the folks how do you stand in this? Where do you see yourself involved with this?
Well, they did call us Comicsgate. They did give us this name to connect us to the negative connotations of Gamergate. That's definitely true. So that they can just label us toxic just for the act of being a Comicsgate, right? But I don't mind it, to be honest. I consider myself Comicsgate through and through. I don't mind calling myself Comicsgate or a Comicsgater, and I think we can enact positive change within the movement ourselves if we just keep at it and don't stoop to their level.
Yeah, Yeah, very good. Yeah, and I think we're from all of us over here, our point of view, especially here in Fanspeak, we want to get a lot of people's opinion. Of course, that means there's going to be different opinions that show up on the show from time to time because we want to hear from everybody. But in general, most of us over here, we want to have fun. It's we don't want super high drama. We're certainly happy to look at the nonsense that comes out of the other side and have a laugh about it. But we are more chill on this side for sure, at least here in Fanspeak. But we are part of Comicsgate, and that is absolutely true. And not trying to throw that off. I just think that it's bigger than that. But and there's more things coming in the future. And I think as time goes by, I think this will be seen more as the indie Renaissance group or the indie revival group, as DeWolf likes to say. But hey, it's cool for now. Maverick MX says we're pretty chill people. They're the ones who are the hateful ones. That's true. You're right, Maverick. Go ahead, Denelli. You wanted to say something?
No, I mean, I kind of agree. We're chill people. We're reasonable. Yeah. We can have fun. We can joke with each other. We know we're joking with each other. And no, we can move beyond it. It's an event. We are, whatever we go, we're still going to be that, but we can grow. That's my
thing. No, absolutely. Be adaptable, have fun, see where this goes. I know we're all really excited about it, seeing all these things and books that are going to come, and we start getting them in our hands. And it's like and that's kind of interesting because sometimes you hear a lot of like I've seen Ethan say this, and other people is like, "Hey, we're doing our own thing. You guys wouldn't listen to us. You wouldn't let us be part of your club. We're doing our own thing. Just leave us alone." I kind of get that, but then again, there are large numbers of people in this community that are on a day-to-day basis knocking heads with the other side, and it goes both ways. I'm not putting any blame anywhere, but it's kind of hard to say leave us alone when we are always interacting with them when they pull our chain, which is what they do. But I don't know that matters anyway. Chad Middleton says, "Are we Comicsgate or cyber Nazis?" I'm pretty sure that we're cyber Nazis, especially Booster. He's definitely a cyber Nazi.
Oh, absolutely! I can't help.
I mean, look at him. He's all blonde and blue and white teeth.
It's true, man. I mean, as much as I like the term Comicsgate myself, anyway, I don't like all the other negative connotations that come with it, right? Racist, Nazi, transphobe, homophobe, whatever phobe or ism that they could attach to it. I don't accept any of those. I'm just simply Comicsgate in the context that I want good comics.
Yeah. No, that's just the way they do deal with it. And that's why there's no actual power behind those words anymore. They don't actually believe with those things, and if they do, well, then that's a real problem. But no, of course, we're none of those things. We're just people who would like comic books and are sad that comic books are being written so poorly these days. That's really what it comes down to, and they have no creativity, and so, that's an interesting point before we get into the other news ideas we had today. Now there seems to be a debate, and some people say that they meaning, let's say, Marvel, for instance, that they are simply uncreative and unimaginative, and that's why they take all the old characters and just twist them, because they have no actual imagination and ability to create anything. And then there's the other side that I actually think it's more likely is that no, they're doing it intentionally. They are intentionally twisting those things to anger people and to ruin and destroy intentionally, while they gleefully laugh to themselves in the dark. But that debate is certainly one I've heard many, many times. What do you guys think about that? Is it just simply they're just incredibly uncreative, and that's why they just twist things a little bit because they can't think of anything better, or are they doing it intentionally to cause pain and sadness? What do you think, Denelli?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both, because truth is never that simple when it comes out to light. I think in their own mind's eye, they are trying to do something. Sometimes it is intentional where they're tweaking it, but not to the extent that they see beyond the pages. I think there's been a lot of mention that a lot of these writings that they put as first drafts, and they say it's good as great, let's ship it off.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah. Well, that's more of a quality control problem. I'm
Mhm.
talking about the impetus, you know.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's their grandeur, what they see about what they're putting in is so great and infallible in their eyes that whatever they write, they say this is the greatest thing ever, and they ship it off as is
So
because
I see you're seeing it as a point of ego. I get it.
Mhm.
Okay. That could be a good point. Let me see the chat real quick, and then we'll jump over to Booster's answer to that question. Durkin says, I also don't like that some people have taken the creator's need to act professional as I can be a a troublesome person to creators and they can't say anything to me. Yeah, that's not cool the way they do that. They can yell and scream, but yet we can't respond. And I'm gonna come to that point in a second, actually, Durkin. Uh Derek Tyler says, yellow. Well, yellow to yourself, sir. Uh Continuing with Durkin, never works to run away from the name. Yes, no, I understand that, and we're not doing that. We are Comicsgate for sure. I
yeah,
just think that, yeah. Go ahead,
we're
Janelle.
not we're not definitely running away, and I think we're trying to look to the future. You
Mm,
know, like I said, we're always going to be Comicsgate, regardless. You know where we move from. It's not forgetting the past, but always looking towards the future of
yeah.
what we can become even greater. Can we become greater than the name itself? And that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, and I think the real difference is the other side, and of course there are always multiple sides of the thing, but we can look at this as one side versus another. The other side is you know, identity politics. They're ideological. Over here on this side, we're not identity politics. Politics. We're not ideological, and that's the point I guess we're trying to make. We are truly diverse over here. We have people all kinds of opinions and attitudes. We are truly the melting pot of comic book fans, and therefore it's not as easy to label us as one thing. And
You know,
that's, I think, the point. Go ahead, Booster.
that's why the NPC meme is taken off so hard, you know, because of how much how homogenous they are. You know, you can interchange some of these people's personalities; they all just come off exactly the same. You know, you can take a status update from Gail Simone or Chuck Wendig, switch them around, and you think it was the same bloody person. You wouldn't probably notice. Now, half these blue checkmark people, they just act the same way. They have the same exact snarky attitude, horrible
Yep.
bitterness to them, and
Yep.
just ugliness of spirit.
No, it's absolutely true, and that's so that's the point I think we're making, guys. We're not saying, oh, we're not Comicsgate or we're Super Comicsgate. We're not saying any of that. We're just saying that we're more fluid, and some people like the word and some people don't like the word, but we all agree. We want good comic books, and we hate that they take these iconic characters and twist them for their own pleasure. That we all agree on that, and whatever name you put to that is fine. And that's probably why we don't use it as much here. It's not because we're not, because we are. It's because we understand that there are people with many different opinions, and it's not we don't want to label ourselves. But Booster, why don't you go ahead and answer that question about, are they simply creatively inept, or are they actually insidious?
It's always hard to claim that someone's being insidious or spiteful. You know, it's
Mm.
you have to believe that there's something in their mind going, that'll teach these male cases. Well, maybe. It is so hard to say. I'd say a little of column A, a little column B. I think some of these people are just lunatics, honestly.
Yeah, there seems to be some actual mental distress going on with quite a few of them, to be honest with you. Like, for instance, Mark Wade. We know that he's up and down with his writing skill, right? I mean, sometimes he
Yep.
writes really well, and then he writes really, really bad, and he can't keep his temper. He is well known in the industry for a long time. This isn't recent. Mark Wade is well known in the industry
Mm.
as being a person who throws tantrum. He's a full grown man, but he throws tantrums. So there might
Yeah.
be some mental issues going on. There could be. Yeah, that's true.
Mm.
We're not doctors though, so we're not going to
No, no problem. It's
I
diagnose
don't
that.
know what it is about the
When,
little comics book club, but there's something about it that seems to poison people's minds.
yeah, when I was like I said, for Mark Wade, his tempers are legendary. That 10-year-old, I knew about them just going to a comic book store. I knew about Mark Waid's temper. That's how amazing his legendary status is, for ill or good. You know, there's good stories and bad stories, but his temper is always going to be a defining feature for Mark Waid, and he's always going to shoot himself in the foot.
Yeah, no, it's a problem with him, and he's not the only one. Um, and like for instance, here's another point on this topic we're talking about. Chad Middleton says Robbie Rodriguez took a dead character and turned her into Spider-Gwen. Now, here's an interesting thing. Now, uh, the idea that Gwen Stacy is the one who got bit by the spider on that fateful day, other than Peter Parker, there's nothing wrong with that story. It's a good idea. It's an Elseworld story, and it's not the and of course I think Spider Gwen actually had some popularity for there for a while. I think it's where they can't resist touching. Let me give you an example. I'm watching The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix right now with my wife, and it's a pretty good series, and it's the acting's well, and it's taking a very different approach to the that whole haunting or Hill House story, which we've seen done so many times. But one of the things they just can't resist themselves. Like in this one, we saw, for instance, one of the sisters. Of course, she has to be a lesbian, of course, because you got to have one, right, or two. And of course, another thing, if you notice, a lot of these shows, particularly when it comes to white people, you can't have two white people married or dating. There has to be a white person and some person of color. They do that on purpose. Now, normally in the past, if we saw that, we would think nothing of it. Okay, it's just the characters that they chose. But we know why they're doing it. And that brings us to the actual point. It's why they're doing these things. It's not that they're doing these things. The idea that Spider Gwen, Gwen Stacy being bit by the spider instead of Peter Parker is not a problem. It could be a really interesting story. The question, the bad point is why they're doing it, and it's politics. It's not for good storytelling. It's because this has to be done this way, and they need to teach us because we're such inept, horribly stupid people that we don't know any better. That's kind of the issue, and it's too bad because a cool story about Gwen Stacy getting bit by the spider and said, I don't have a problem with that at all. Do you guys have an opinion on that?
They did a lot of cool things with that series. Actually, I picked that one
Yeah.
up, and I really love Spider-Gwen's costume design. It's one of the better ones out there. I think it's a really cool design.
Yeah.
And they did some other cool things with that universe. They kind of gave these writers a separate universe to play with, and I like that a lot. And they did weird things, like they made Matt Murdock the Kingpin, and changed up a lot of other characters, like Peter Parker was the Lizard.
Mm.
And
yeah, the Elseworld stories are cool, right?
Now I can't think of Spider-Gwen without thinking of Robbie Rodriguez's butt. So
well, yeah.
So that's what happens.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying, right? I mean, doing something different is not a problem. It's not, but they're not doing it to do something different. They're doing it to make a political point. There's the problem, right?
Yeah. It's kind of the same thing with the What If series. Like the latest one they were doing is, what if Spider-Man became the Punisher? And then, I think it was mentioned, one of them's like it was lackluster story, and I kind of agree with that sentiment. And it was like the idea came out good, but the execution, and I'm sorry for the pun, came out really poorly on that storyline.
Yeah, no, and that's another whole nother issue. They just, when you go with this identity politics and you hire the person who is the exact thing that you're trying to create without and throwing aside meritocracy, that's a huge part of what's going on here. And we see this across the board, not just in comics. We see it everywhere. You hire people who are skilled, and a skilled person can make anything. But that's not what they're doing. The identity politics has killed the storytelling levels, and the art has been affected by that as well. Although I do have to say, when CB Cebulski came in, the writing didn't improve, the politics didn't go away, but the art did seem to improve. Don't you guys think?
Yeah, the art for the most part improved, but there's been points where really good artists been turning subpar things, and I kind of noticed that in the recent Spider-Man runs, where I saw Ryan are when you compare it to his Invincible run and to his Spider-Man run, you can see that he had to put less detail on that work as well.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. I've noticed that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, let's finish this because we haven't even touched the news yet. But let's finish this because this is a good conversation. To go back to Durkin's comment and the point that comes off of that is now what you have is daily. These guys that work over in Marvel, DC, all these artists, daily they're on Twitter and they're just constantly deriding anyone who would dare attach themselves to this. But then on the other side, which includes us and other groups as well. There's members in that group that are daily banging heads with them on. It seems Twitter is the main place they do it, just banging heads day after day after day. And there's certainly a debate within this community on whether either you should meet them at their nonsense or just ignore them completely. There's an absolute debate in this community, and there's certainly two clear sides on that. Where do you guys think on that? Do you think should we face their toxic hate, or should we just simply ignore them and not feed the monkey?
I go with the third option. Just laugh.
Yeah, well, that's what we mainly do here. It's true, yeah.
Because when you start reading them, you just start laughing. You just start crackling because you have to imagine they're either on their keyboard or they're on their phone and they're seeing and they're madly punching those keyboard and saying and writing this and saying, okay, this will trigger those guys off, blah blah blah. And no, all you're doing is just making us laugh.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's how we do it. We just laugh it out. We watch them self-destruct. We take a back step, we look at it and say, you know what? Continue doing what you guys are doing because we're going to make comics great again and we're going to build this thing and and we're going to be so big that you're not going to even know. One of the articles I put up as well, Chester, was from the BBC where they were showcasing children in an art festival writing their own comics. How cool is that? Yeah,
that is cool.
So and what tickled me was one of the comments on there that said, this is what happens when there's no heroes that the kids can look up. They start making up their owns. And that's something that, I totally agree with because we see it here in Comicsgate where we are making our own comics. We see the Impious where there's people from the audience and creators are coming out and saying, we're going to make our own comics. And, if you support our ideas, we'll provide entertainment with you. So it's always great.
Absolutely. Let me grab the over here chat real quick, and we'll come back to Booster to answer that question. Engage or don't engage? But Dr. Wright says, engage the reasoning, not the person. Very true. Very true. And it's unfortunate I didn't get to speak to you directly already, Dr. Wright, but I knew you did come over and talk to some of our guys. I was busy on another live stream at the time, but I heard it was a great conversation. So thank you very much for coming over and chatting with us. And we certainly want to get you more involved, actually. And let's come down here. And Mighty Geek Studio says, choose any option and they'll start calling your name. That's true. It doesn't matter what I'm not asking what they think about it. I'm asking what we think about it, for sure. Okay, so Booster, what do you think? Engage or don't engage? Or laugh about it, which is really what we do here on Fanspeak mainly.
I like what Dr. Wright said, engage the reasoning, not the person, because these people cannot be reasoned with, They are people that are snarky, they're bullies, they will just completely, wave away any kind of point you have, they will accuse you of all sorts of things that you're not, They will claim that where you're coming from is a hateful place no matter what you say. I'm definitely more on the ignore side myself, because, I barely use Twitter as it is, and I'm a very passive person personally. I don't like getting into fights or arguments with people either way. And I kind of wish that the bigger members of Comicsgate wouldn't engage certain individuals, because I feel we don't need them.
No, we don't need them at all.
We don't need the SJWs. I think Comicsgate is a growing movement in of itself, and we got the money, we have the talent, we're doing great. They need us a lot more than we need them.
That's true. Very well said. That is true. We don't need them at all. We're having a lot of fun over here. I
No.
just, I'm talking about the day to day because I don't engage on Twitter very much. I use it as it was intended, I think. And I have been. Pixel Trader has told me very clearly that my Twitter account is way too small and I need to increase it. So please go down to the link below and hit the Twitter and follow me, so the Pixel Trader will quit yelling at me. Please help me.
Yeah.
I'm afraid.
Yeah,
But
Pixel is bullying
Twi-
him, and
he
you need
is.
to
Pixel,
speak
yes.
out.
You need to help me. But I don't use Twitter in that way anyway. But what I've noticed though, with people who are on Twitter all the time, and I'm talking about good people on Twitter all the time, it drains your soul, man. It drains you. It
It's definitely
takes,
something about Twitter that poisons your mind.
yes,
It makes you
you know,
an ugly, bitter person.
Yeah, and if you feel like you need to face that attack head on, go right ahead, do that. But I would suggest that take a break every now and then, because I feel that it takes a lot out of you, and and you don't want to have become dark and twisted like they are, because they live there. That's the thing about those guys; their whole life is on Twitter every day. You got like Gail Simone. I mean, she's older than I am, I think, and she's on Twitter all day long, every day. I'm like, I don't even know when she has time to write anything. That lady is constantly on Twitter, and it. I think it adds to the problem of their toxicity, and of course, this is all exploded with the Trump derangement syndrome, which is absolutely a thing.
There's got to
But
be something to do with that blue check mark and all those likes and retweets you get. There's got to be something about those numbers that's
yeah, but
addictive.
see, Ethan has a blue check mark,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
he's
true.
not deranged like that. But anyway, I just think that's good we had that conversation, because we never really covered it very clearly, because we just came in and say, hey, let's have some fun talking about what's going on over here in Comicsgate and Indiegogo. But I'm glad we had that conversation. I'm glad we have interacted with you guys, and of course we all have frustration about some of the nonsense that's going on and stuff. But I do like Denali and personally my option, which is just sit back and laugh at it. So why don't we go ahead and sit back and laugh at it, and take a look at some funny stories and actually get into the news. Here is a continuation of an ongoing story, which I think we all shall enjoy. Oh, look, it's our favorite foul mouthed vulgar man, Chuck Wendig. And it says right here that comic book professionals throw support behind Chuck Wendig after Marvel fired him. Of course they did. Of course he did, because it was, Marvel is this incredible fascist group, right?
Or because they see that they will be held accountable for the tweets.
And they should be. They should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and read this, Janelle, that's on the screen right here.
All right. Star Wars novelist and formal Marvel comic book writer Chuck Wendig was fired from the company on Friday after repeated attacks against Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars fans and consumer. While Wendig would try to paint himself as a victim, he repeatedly attacked fans, calling them all sorts of nasty names, such like Collis, Next, Prolapse, Holes, grotesque monster, racist, rapist, wenchid abuser. Wenchid abuser. And
Wretched
petty
abusers. Yeah.
wretches abuser. Sorry, I'm looking at fantasy wench. You wenchid abuser, wretches abuser, and petty horror. He would even call for violence against Trump supporters, stating they could eat a lot of boot cover in, well,
Excrement.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, and I think we've all seen this story. It's been going on, and everybody is talking about it. And of course, that rant he went on Twitter was one of the most vulgar things I think I've ever seen on Twitter. I mean, I've seen more violent stuff where this was more just kind of throwing a tantrum and whining, but it just vulgar. It's just so vulgar. And they revel in their vulgarity. This is something I've noticed about that group. These people over here we call SJWs, yeah, and of course we know what happened. He got fired, and et cetera, et cetera. But we have a bunch of comic book professionals, including some of his colleagues, that have come on here to support him. So, Booster, why don't you go read this? Charles
no.
Soule.
No, not Charles Soule.
Charles
Oh.
Soule. Go ahead, man.
I don't think I can. This is freaking hard. I really like Charles Soule. I'm loving it. His Daredevil's the only thing I'm buying for Marvel at the moment.
And well,
Oh, bloody hell. I'll do it anyway, out of spite.
thank
Hey,
you, sir.
Chuck Wendig, you're delightful, a great writer, and I hope today is better than yesterday. This whole thing puts me in a mind of a second thing Obi-Wan says to Vader during their fight in A&H, which you obviously will know without looking it up. Because you're so great. That's my
Wow.
Charles Soule. He's a
Wow,
lawyer.
thank you. Yes, I know, and
Mm.
I don't think he sounds anything like that. But hey,
I
cool.
think that was accurate. I think it was a good impression.
Yeah. Now here's something else I find interesting. Do you notice how often they reference Star Wars? Have you guys noticed a trend? They really enjoy referencing Star Wars, particularly
Well,
like prequels and stuff. What is up with that? That's weird.
well, I'm sure they would because Chuck Wendig was writing Star Wars.
Yeah, but I get that, but I see it elsewhere as well. That has no connection to Star Wars at all. They really seem to enjoy referencing Star Wars or Marvel movies in particular.
It's probably
It's
to,
like,
it's probably to do credit, like nerd credits. Like, I know Star Wars. I'm hip to the thing.
I know
even
Star Wars. I love the part where Picard uses the Force.
there you go.
Yeah.
That is the best
and
part.
roll the worm.
Yeah.
But imagine if Patrick Stewart was the Emperor in the original trilogy. Ooh, dude, that would be cool, actually. Think about that. What if? Talking about Elseworld. All right, let me come down here. Paul Cornell, who I have no clue who is. You guys might know who he is. He says, well said, Charles. Okay, Charles. Charles didn't say anything. Of course, Charles said, if you know this thing, then you'll know what I mean. Wink, wink. He didn't actually say anything. There's nothing. There's no comment here other than you're delightful, a great writer. That's it. That's what he said. You're delightful and a great writer. So I guess Paul is agreeing that Chuck Wendig is delightful and a great writer. Now, Chuck Wendig has certainly written some good things. Now you might agree or disagree or what have you, but there are some good writing that comes out of Chuck Wendig. He is not without talent. As far as delightful, that hurt my hair.
That hurt my lung.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a delightful human. If you go read that tweet, let's go back and look at it again. Look at the things he said here. This is not a delightful person. Delightful people don't say things like, you want to see a delightful person? Go check out Gary Shipman on YouTube. That's a delightful person,
Adorable.
right?
He's an adorable man.
He is. But this Chuck Wendig is not delightful.
Mine, so I like him even more.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Denali. Let's see what Joe Hill has to say.
But first, can you please click on Joe Hill's
I will.
picture?
I will.
I think that's a toupee, lads.
I think it is a toupee. I think something's going on. Although his beard is not too dissimilar from mine. Mine's cooler though, I think. But the beard's not so bad. But that hair is weird.
Oh mate, hair. I'm telling you, mate. If I was going bald, I would give up. I would not want to have that thing sitting on my bloody head.
And this is the son of famed writer Stephen King.
Really?
Yes.
Oh well. See, that's why we have a Denali. That we have a Denali. Those other guys don't have a Denali. We have a Denali. That's why you come here.
I knew that.
Yes.
At Marvel, hey, at Walt Disney, you want to work with creator who has vision and imagination, better accept they may also express themselves politically or impolitely. But I know he was trying to say pun it out. When trope persuade you to fire James Gunn or Chuck Wendig, you lose, and your audience loses.
And he continues. So go ahead and continue being Joe Hill.
Which is not to say Chuck Wendig has anything to apologize for his tweet either. Personally, I think social media is arsenic for the soul and poison, absolute poison for society. But at least most of Chuck's posts are funny and compassionate. What's wrong with that?
Funny and compassionate, eh?
Funny and compassionate.
Let's scroll up again. Scroll up to those.
I will. I'm gonna emphasize the point, and then I'll scroll up. He contradicts himself. right? Personally, I think it's all about virtual signaling, right? Personally, I think social media is arsenic for the soul and poison, absolute poison. All right, which I mentioned earlier, right? It seems to actually affect you. But then he goes on and talks about how funny and compassionate he is, and what's wrong with it. So is social media arsenic for the soul, or is nothing wrong with it? John Hill, make up your mind, dude. Choose one, right? And I'm sorry, but this right here, once again, I'm not going to read it out. You can see the absolute, you know, uh, grotesque statements that he uses here. This is not funny. It's not delightful. It is not nice. There's nothing good here about that statement and other statements he's made. It's not the first time he's done this. Chuck Wendig is always going off. I think he stepped over some unknown line from Marvel because he's constantly doing this stuff. He's not a happy guy. He's very much like Mark Wade, to be honest with you. Go ahead, Booster. Let's see what the Ingle of Dr. Moreau.
Jamal Igle, attorney at Bird Law. While it is indeed Marvel's call to make, it was a bad call. This was not how you respond to a harassment campaign.
Oh, okay. So now they're responding to our harassment. That really? Did you guys see a huge harassment campaign coming out of us? I mean, I'm sure there was some, but for the most part, we were all like, "It's Tuesday," you know. I mean, we didn't see a big response to what he says because they're always saying dumb things like that. So, what harassment campaign are you talking about here, Jamal Ingle? What do you want about? And of course, he's referring to this Chuck thing here. So here's a thing that has happened. I just got fired from Marvel. Taking off issues 4 and 5 of Shadows of Vader, and taken off as yet unannounced Star Wars book. This might be a long thread, so apologies in advance. We saw that.
I hate that. So here's a thing that just happened. Oh my god! Talk like a person, you weirdo.
Actually, Richard Meyer over in the DNC, he's really good about pointing out these tropes that they always follow. I enjoy those about his videos.
How they
and he's
announce the conversation and always declare when the conversation is over. It's absolutely true.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and have Denali read this one from Gary Conway. I have a feeling that let's take a look at Gary real quick. Let's go see Gary. Okay, he looks like a normal fella, and he's sitting there with a Punisher, which is always coolness.
Yeah,
he seems to be a fan.
Well, he's also he's the co-creator of the Punisher and some other ones, and he's also the one in the news for calling out DC and Jeff John for not giving credits to the Teen Titans, the creators.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was another story you had mentioned. Yeah. And once again, that's why we have a Denali. Go ahead, man. Read that.
Well, unless Chuck totally screws up Deadline, doubtful, or refuses to take editorial direction, also doubtful. This is very disheartening move by Marvel.
Really? That's interesting. It's interesting. I don't think we've heard anything about deadlines or anything like that, but I wonder why it's disheartening, Gary. Wonder why it is. Is it because this is a sign that you have to, cow your statements down a little bit and start being a little more friendly and diplomatic and human? Oh, I don't know. Could be. Ooh, we knew this was going to show up. Of course, this lady cannot help herself. She must comment on everything. She must be involved in everything because she is the shining star of comics, and we could not live a day without her. I'm telling you, that's how she thinks. If you read her tweets, that's how this lady thinks. Now, Booster, I got it. This is a pretty big challenge. It's a pretty short little sentence, but Booster, you're going to have to read this in your absolute best Gail Simone, please.
A Gail Simone impression?
Okay, wait. I'm putting you on the spot, man. I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear what happened to you, Chuck Wendig. Oh, please.
Oh no, that's not right. All right. At least just keep going on, guys.
And you know what's funny is that she's going at it with Blake Norcott, who's a writer for Aspen and some of the comics online. over there where she's told Blake that she's being passive aggressive, and she's saying being passive aggressive for what? For just being polite. How can you throw me under the bus like that for being polite and telling your rude customers to leave me alone while I make money over here winning? Oh man, it's crazy. And then
Let's see.
and then she acts like the victim.
All right, but yeah, no, that keeps going on like that, guys. I mean, we're going to end that on Gail Simone because that's perfect, and that was very good, a very good job, Booster. I have to say.
Oh,
Let's
thank
come
you.
over here to chat and see what they're saying. Of course, they're doing some more of their Pope stuff, which they're having fun with.
Yeah.
We do have Pixel Trader come on and has a statement. So let's see here. He says total funding is just the combined totals. He's answering a question from campaigns right now that the number shifts when campaigns die, get pulled, etc. He's answering questions that have been asked him in the chat. But since he's talking about Indicron, if you check down the link below, we have Indicron listed there. And if you guys want to see all the Indiegogo comics that are available in this community, then that's the place to go. And Pixel is actually working on updating that site in a very, very, very cool way. Many ways, actually. So go check that out. Linked right down below. And thank you very much for joining us, Pixel.
Awesome. Yeah.
Pope Fire says, "Yeah, go ahead, Denali."
I was going to say, and make sure to always hit that like button, subscribe, and share this as well if you like
Yes,
our
yes.
conversation.
Absolutely.
And I saw a question that I wanted to answer, which was Chrono Nas cried on. He says, I see none of you talking about the video game Guild Wars 2 dev being fired for attacking a fan like Chuck did. And when the other dev there stood up for her, he got fired too. And he's referring to Jessica Price.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
And I love to talk about her because any mention with her just seems to summon her from wherever she comes.
It's true. And that wasn't the first time there's been trouble with her.
Correct.
She is always causing trouble. And yeah, we didn't mention it because it happened a bit ago, and we mainly cover comic book news here. But yeah, no, it's the same thing. That's kind of the point I was making, guys. This isn't happening just here. It's happening everywhere. Everywhere. You can't even we can't even use toilets normally. That's how far it's spread. It's gotten to the toilets, Booster. Toilets. Ew. Exactly. Ew. Right. But yeah, no. Please, check out Indicron, hit the link, like button, and all those kind of things as well. But yeah, no. Of course, we've seen that story, and yeah, she's a nasty human, and she absolutely deserved to get fired, and so did he. Business is business, and the reason they don't understand that, guys. And I'm sure I'm speaking to the choir here, but one of the things that they don't understand is capitalism, making money. And the reason they don't understand that is because they're a bunch of Marxists, right? They don't like money. They hate money. They think it's the root of all evil, and that might well be true. But we live in a world where you need it, and a business is run to make money. And when you affect the money making capabilities of the business you are working for, they're going to fire you, and they are right to do so. And Guild Wars, in specific Guild Wars 2 or ArenaNet, was very justified in doing what they did. And good on them. Good on them, right? Pope Fire says, fake geek girls reference Star Wars. Did I tell you guys how much I hate sand? At Chester, thank you. Yes, I know you don't like Sand Pope. And I got some people asking about letting Pope come on here, and I'm pretty sure you have the link. It's in the Fanspeak link chat, Pope. If she wants to come on.
Is there a Fanspeak chat?
Yeah, aren't you guys? Well, who's the one that threw all the links to that? Well, we'll talk about that later. I thought everyone was in that. I didn't set it up though. But yeah, okay. Moving on here. They're talking amongst themselves and they're having a good conversation. It's cool. Great on you guys. Remember, you can ask us questions directly too. And yes, no, guys, I'm not responding all the Pope Fire stuff. You have your Pope stuff. Sorry, Pope Wars. I call it the Pope Wars. You guys go ahead and have your fun. But real actual questions, Please ask them. All right, let's move on to the second story that is connected to this one. It's actually just continuation of that, but this one I actually have something to say about. This is comicbook.com writer Chase Magnet threatens consequences after Marvel fired Chuck Wendig, and this is coming out of Bounding Comics. But Denali, tell us just a quick little summary of what exactly this article is about.
Which article?
This is the oh, that's right. I'll take care of it. This is the Bounty in the Comics, and it's the it's a continuation of the Chuck and Wendig thing. There's a
Oh, right.
writer, Chase Magnet, threatens consequences after Marvel fired Chuck Wendig. Have you checked this story out?
Yeah, so basically Chase is saying threatening anybody must refuse to take Chuck Wendig's work or face consequences if they do. I'm like, what? You can read it right there. What?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Now here's this magnet guy or this maggot guy. I don't know if they're the same people, but you have the CA maggot, Chase Magnet. Yeah, so he calls himself a maggot.
He sounds like a pleasant little fellow.
Yeah, pleasant little fellow for sure. But let me go ahead and read this little thing right here. And excuse me if I do rant for a moment, guys. I'm going to read one sentence to you, just one. You guys can see it on the screen, but I'm going to read it to you. It says, "Whoever takes Chuck Wendig's work is making comics a worse industry for everyone but the shareholders." Now, was I being mocking? Yeah, you better believe it. Did you see that? I mean, I don't need to read anything else. That one sentence says everything you need, right? This person thinks that firing someone who went on an absolutely toxic rant against fans, calling them incredibly grotesque things, and getting fired for it is worse for everyone but the shareholders. Now, we've mentioned a couple of times about the Marxist leaning of these people and their hate for money and how they always make little comments like that. This isn't my opinion. You go read anything they talk about; they're always against making money. And here's a perfect example. Just to inform you, Mr. Magnet, shareholders are the beginning, middle, and end of everything there is for a business. You make them happy or you don't do anything. They
Right.
are the business. I
Pretty
don't know
much.
what's wrong with you.
Pretty much, because if the shareholder don't get paid, that means they will sell your share, and that means that's less money for the company. Pretty much, because if the shareholder don't get paid, that means they will sell.
All right. Pope Far came on and left her mic on. So thank you, Pope. But go ahead and continue, Janelle.
Yeah. So with that, if there's no dividends for it, then then the business is not going to grow, and they're going to lay off people. And that's the truth of the thing.
Yeah, and he goes on here and continues, and he says, "I'm assuming this is a guy. I don't really care." But he says they're reducing job security and wages. They are an active participant in everything terrible about this, which once again, is continuing this same silly thinking. A business is not there for the employee first. They are there for the customer first. Now, should they do their best to take care of their employees, pay them the best they can, et cetera, et cetera? Of course they should. But a business exists for the customers first, not the employees. And these people have this concept that businesses are only there for the employees. And you're wrong. You're wrong. And this is the problem with this guy's argument, because he can't and so many of them, they can't understand this concept. It's beyond them. It's burned into their brain that money is bad, business is bad, but yet they go and want to get jobs, and they demand to have jobs. Like with Gail Simone, forcing her way into the industry, making all those complaints about the body and the fridge and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure you guys know that story, but I'm not going to go here and read all this because it's just going to make me mad. So I just wanted that one sentence. That's one sentence right here is all you need to know about this article. It's nonsense. It's just complete nonsense, guys. So anyway, we're going to move on to something else. But now Booster, and welcome, Pope. Booster had something he wanted to talk about that was Mark Wade related.
Our
Our
old buddy
favorite.
Mark Wade.
He's our favorite.
Absolutely. Our favorite NPC writer in comics at the moment. He's written a couple of good stories and a lot of bloody awful ones. And in a recent Nick Recato video, we've learned that Mark Wade has asked for a extension on his answer to DNC's lawsuit, I believe.
He has, and I'm going to go ahead and bring that up for you.
Mm-hmm. He also had a new attorney listed. So he may have lost his little super lawyer, Mark S. Zaid.
I know, that is weird. Now, this isn't exactly the extension, guys. This up here is, and I'm sure you've all seen this before, but this is the original court claim. This isn't the actual resolution or anything. This is just the posting. But go ahead, Booster. Go ahead.
All right.
Booster?
It's just interesting stuff, and in Nick Recato's opinion. And remember, this is just a lawyer's opinion, but it's the only lawyer we've got commenting on this, other than, of course, super lawyer at Bird Law, Jamal Igle. But Nick Recato believes that Mark Zaid thought that that Mark Wade didn't have a very good chance with the settlement, and.
Well, it's pretty clear cut. I mean, it's just from a layman's point of view. I mean, it's obviously, we see all kind of horrible things go on, but that particular one, that was seen pretty obvious to be some manner of business, inappropriate business practice. I don't think Richard would have bothered to spend the money and all the effort and stuff to get into this with this 10-page document that lists out all his grievances unless he thought he had a chance to win. I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Richard Meyer is very frugal and particular about money, right?
He is.
Definitely.
Our boy Zach, he's good with that.
Yeah, and the new Mark Wade's attorney that filed the newest unopposed motion to the extension pursuant, whichever code they were pursuing to, was Beverly Reed, which is based in Austin. So, and that's the new attorney that sent in that documentation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Well, and once again, this story with the Mark Wade, Richard Meyer story is ongoing, guys. It's going to continue, and I'm sure there's going to be fireworks. There's going to be all kind of interesting things, and we will keep an eye on it, just like everybody else, and see how that goes. I see a couple other people have joined the chat. Hello, Tank. Nice to see you. E Long is here. Thank you very much for joining us. And we're going to go ahead and jump into our last story here in 1 second. But Pope Fire has come on and joined us. How you doing, Pope?
Yes, I'm doing just swell.
You have a different icon today.
I do. It was made by Pope Raven and colored by my friend Joseph. So
sweet, I like it. It's nice.
Thank you. It's Starfire wearing my stream gear.
Yeah, it is. I think I think I actually like this better than the other one.
Yeah, this one probably won't last too long because I'm getting Eric is gonna do me one kind of similar. So.
Oh well, jeez, special, But no, those are cool. It's cool we can get those icons. Like the one I got here is drawn by Gary Shipman, by the way. But it is cool we can get that. And I know Booster is hunting for something that's very special and particular to himself as well. How's that coming along on you commissioning your new avatar, sir?
Ooh, you'll have to ask Pixel in the chat over here.
Oh, all right.
Are you working on a Pixel?
Yeah, Pixel, get to work.
Yeah, Pixel's still working on my commission. So
okay. So Boosters gotta wait. Remember, Booster, women first. Always women first.
Well, I actually got Booster one, so it's fine.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, Booster will get something sooner than later.
Pixel's what? Oh, sorry, wasn't listening. See, he doesn't care what we're doing. Thanks, what? Pixel. But no, actually, guys, you can get a custom avatar from many of these artists in the community in many cases for like $100 or less. Some of them are certainly more expensive when you get up to the bigger guys, of course, but but that doesn't mean much. I mean, you go to look at you can get one from Eric Ninotowski. I don't know the price on it, but I know it's not that bad.
No,
Eric
he-
is outstanding art.
Yeah.
Our,
I
uh,
might have to recommend Eric.
our community is full of crazy talented artists, and
Yes.
so many of them are willing to do commissions for you. You come to me, I'll do commissions for you for free, mate.
That might be actually cool to have like a side booster bugbear icon. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, no, that. So if you guys are interested in custom icons and stuff, check out some of these artists. They're all over the place. Come on Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to whatever channel. We'll announce that. And you'll see a whole bunch of fan artists, and these guys are actually working on Indiegogos and getting involved, and they're incredibly skilled people. So if you want an icon, go just check it out, man. You can find it for sure in this community, easy. All right, so Pope, do you have anything you want to talk about or announce before we get into our last story?
I mean, I kind of wanted to do the Gail Simone voice, but Booster got to do it, so.
I think I did it a lot better, to be honest. I think my impression was spot on. But if
Okay.
you'd like to try, I think you can still go ahead.
No, I'm good now.
Okay, all right,
Alright.
fine. Now, Pixel actually, I knew they were talking to a couple people, and I didn't want to say. That's why I didn't mention where. Oh, but it looks like they have confirmed, and they're going to be. Jake is going to be hosting this week, which is awesome. So, Pixel, why don't you go ahead and drop a link to Jake's YouTube so people can go over and sub to that, so they can be ready to go see that on Wednesday night. But yeah, that's really good. Jake's a really nice guy. I love Jake. Sweet guy, good artist, and all
he's on the
overall
list.
real good supporting guy. Well, go ahead, Danelli.
I said, and he's also on the list.
He is on the list. How did that happen? But yeah, he is on the blacklist. But Jake's a good guy. I like Jake a lot. So thank you very much, Pixel. And go ahead and drop his link, please, Pixel, so people can go set that up. All right, let's jump into this last story that we have. And once again, I'm going to do my best not to rant. I'll try. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard, but I'm going to try. So, in order for me not to, immediately start ranting, I'm going to allow Denali and Booster to go ahead and start this off. So we'll go ahead and start with Denali. Denali, please introduce this story to the folks.
Oh, mate, I'm in line for a good rant myself on this one.
So basically, this comes from CNBC talking about the new take on Superman and all about truth and justice, and not so much of the American way. And some of the people that they interviewed was Frank Miller, and they talked about what Frank Miller has done in the past, in his view, as well as Brian Bendis in his current backstory. Do you know what he has done, Chester and
Yes.
Booster?
Yes, I do, but just for the sake of the chat,
It
why don't
comes
you
on
go
my
ahead and-
absolute favorite stories of all
enlighten
time.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead, Denelli. Enlighten us.
So for Frank Miller with The Dark Knight, he made him into a totalitarian, authoritarian, holding to the state, trying to keep everything together and being the villain towards Batman kind of deal. But you could go ahead, Pope.
I'm not a big Superman fan, and even I know Frank Miller hates Superman. So I don't know how true that is, but
Yeah.
Oh, Booster's going to enlighten us in a moment, but Denali's still laying out about these two gentlemen and their history with Superman.
Yes. And then Brian Bendis says that not only is Superman from an ultimate immigrant, but he's from a genocide immigrant where a cosmic event committed genocide on the whole population. And change some more things about Superman's backstory that it's what? That it doesn't make sense. So
It doesn't. Yeah. No. And yeah, I'm not going to say anything yet. Go ahead, Booster. Let us know what you think about these two guys and what they've done to Superman, man.
Oh boy. Okay, I'm gonna start this off by saying I have a deep respect for Frank Miller. He's written some of my absolute favorite stories of all time, particularly Dark Knight Returns. That got me into comics. I also love his Batman Begins. I love his Sin City, and his Daredevil is some of the absolute best out there. He reshaped Daredevil to be the fantastic character that he is today. But oh boy, he does not get Superman. That was very clear, even in Dark Knight Returns, where Superman was very much a murdering totalitarian character who was working for the government, which is just simply not what he is. And I hate this idea that Superman is some kind of social justice character, or he is it's just justice, and he isn't a champion of the downtrodden or the oppressed or anything. He is everyone's champion. He is the champion of Earth. He is out to protect everyone and do what he can to do what is right.
Yes, that's true.
And Frank Miller clearly hates this character.
Chester, this is just a question. I'm not like the biggest Superman fan. Most of what I've read has been from Elseworld stories.
Yeah.
But Superman is a farm boy, correct?
He is a farm boy. Yes, he is.
Was it one of the biggest appeals was this farm boy going to a big city? And he was this big superhero, but he was also just a farm boy underneath.
That was part of the story, but it's not the appeal. But yeah, of course, he's a farm boy, and that used to represent something. Used to represent that wholesome living, hard work, respect, dedication, pride. That's what the farm boy aspect was representing in Superman. But Superman is so much deeper than that. And this is the problem with these guys. And it's not just Frank Miller. It's not just Bendis. It's not that guy who made the Man of Steel movies. What's his name? What's the director's name, Denali?
You mean which one?
The Man of Steel, the movie.
The Man of Steel, that's
the German guy.
The German guy.
Right.
That's not, you mean Zack Snyder?
Zack Snyder. Thank you very much, sir. That's why we have a Denali.
Another guy who does not get Superman. And Zack Snyder also takes a lot of cues from Frank Miller.
You're right.
Yeah.
But let me give you a history lesson, guys. Where is Superman coming from? What is the inception of Superman? Well, way back in the midst of time, about 100 years ago, there was this thing that was called radio, and radio was in every house. You think TV's popular? You think a lot of people have TV today? No, radio was far more widespread, at least demographically, than TV is today. I know that's hard to believe, but it's true. Everybody had a radio. They listened to it all the time. It was an incredibly popular medium. And one of the things that came out of that was a lot of these pulp novels and these little horror novelettes, kind of like the Edgar Allan Poe type of stuff, became very popular in these radio serials. And one of the most popular characters, I'm not going to get into it too in depth, but one of the most popular characters came out of that was a character called the Shadow. And I'm sure many of you know who the Shadow is. And the Shadow, of course, Batman is the Shadow. He's an exact copy of the Shadow. I mean, they did a few little tweaks here or there, but it is basically a ripoff of the Shadow. Now, of course, Batman has been, some people would say, is a lot more successful than the Shadow was, but that is arguable. If you understand how long the Shadow lasted and how absolutely the Shadow dominated the culture and popularity at that time, it's actually an argument, which you might think it's not, but it is. And Superman came out of that as well. Now, I'm not going to go into the history of why Superman was created, who created. I'm not going to do that. But what I'm going to tell you is Superman was created as one thing. But as time went by, Superman became something else. There are heroes from all over the world. We have the Dragon Ball Z characters. We have Spider-Man. We have, you name it, all the characters we know. But all of those guys are superheroes. They are comic heroes. They are heroes, whatever the genre they're in. They're just from the books. They are cultural icons, sure, but they are just part of the book. Superman is the only one who went beyond that. Superman became something, especially during the war, the World War II. He became a symbol of what it is to be an American, the symbol of what is right and what is wrong. Now, that's saying not everything America does is right or wrong. That's not even the point. The point is he was the symbol of what is right, and he became an actual true to life icon of the American culture. You had Superman at the White House on many occasions with many presidents throughout our history, shaking hands and being a symbol of what is good. He transcended the comic book page, and that's really sad that this young generation doesn't get that. They don't understand what Superman represents. And when you have these foolish people coming in and taking Superman like, oh, we're going to switch him. We're going to make him a bad guy. We're going to make him more human. We're going to make him where he's going to sit there and watch his dad die because that's angsty and dark and gritty. Go to hell. That's not what Superman is. Superman is the symbol of right. And that's one of the reasons why Superman comics are not always necessarily the most ultimately interesting thing to read, because he's right. Superman has the power to do anything he wants. He is God in a way, but he chooses not to. He chooses to do it the right way. This is what Superman is. And people like Frank Miller, who I like his work too, he's a really good writer. Brian Bendis. Oh goodness, Brian wants to make Superman human, flawed, broken. He wants to make him a cuck. He wants to make Superman this lowly male, is what Bendis is trying to do with Superman. And he doesn't get it. That's not Superman. Superman is the iconic right, the iconic justice, the iconic truth and goodness. That is what Superman is. And in our country, specifically of America, Superman for a long time represented what it was to be America and what we strove to be. And it is insulting and disgusting to me that these people want to destroy that. And of course, it's the same type of people that come up and say America was never great, which is nonsense. They don't know what they're talking about. If they did any research at all, they know that's not true. And this is where it's brought us today. Superman in the Bendis comic is being cucked by his own father. His wife and son have no respect for him. He's just this useless, broken thing. And if you sit here and tell me that this is an intentional attempt to destroy something that is good and something that is American, I will argue the point with you all day, because they're doing it intentionally. And sorry for that long bit of rant, but it really, really makes me mad, because Superman is this icon that they must destroy. Sorry about that, guys. Anyone want to rebuttal that or give an opinion?
I would just want everyone to read All Star Superman.
Yes.
It's the perfect Superman story.
Absolutely. And you got to remember that Superman, the impetus of Superman, was a Jewish boy who wanted to create a hero that could have saved his father, because his father was killed and gunned down in broad daylight. And he created a bulletproof man that could stand up for the injustice of all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's true. And there's a lot of Moses and Superman and other things like that as well. Yeah, that's true. But I guess one of the things I was trying to make, and I don't want to get into again because I'll go forever, is what Superman started as and what he became are two different things.
And I want to interject as well that the shift from Superman being that iconic character to the current iterations of what's going on, where this generation doesn't really understand what Superman has. I have to put it so I don't want to say solely on it, but the impetus came from Frank Miller. That shift, that major iconic shift, came from Frank Miller and his depiction of Superman as an authoritarian from that book.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Because once that happened, you kind of see how everything kind of been influenced for the rest of the way. Before then, Superman was still Superman, and fought for truth, was fought for justice and everything. But since then, it started slowly eroding from there.
Yeah, and some of the comments in the chats over here, and I mentioned that, Durkin. Superman is a hard character to write because he is this character who always does the right thing. He always does. That's why Batman is more interesting, because Batman is flawed. Batman is dark. Batman is brutal. He might not kill, but Batman will go as far as he possibly can toward the line of not killing you. Batman is an incredibly flawed character, and that's more interesting. It's more interesting to read. Superman is hard to write. He is.
I think they've been sort of writing out positive characters. They don't really want positive characters, especially not in DC. I mean, the live action Titans is a perfect example of that. But they've taken away a lot of the positive traits, and they're trying to make each character so depressing to read. And I know that's a DC thing where everything has to be dark and edgy all the time, but
no, well, look
again,
what they did.
no.
Look what they did to Starfire, Pope. Look
Yeah,
what she's always been cheerful, happy. Look what they did to her.
okay, so there was an arc back in I think 2009 where she was going through like mad depression, but even then it wasn't as bad as what we saw with Titans. And I'm honestly mad that every character now has to be going through depression. And you know, I'm not the biggest Superman fan, but I did enjoy Super Sons, and I did enjoy the Rebirth Superman. I dropped Superman the moment they announced Bendis. I know what he does to characters, and even characters I'm not invested in, I don't have an interest in him ruining.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's across the board. Yeah,
and I think, and I noticed something about Super Sons and why it's popular, because they're fun.
Yeah,
they're fun storyline, and that's what we want. We want fun storylines that ends in an issue. How awesome is that?
You know, I miss fun comics. I miss fun characters.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's not just, you know, while mentioning Starfire, there's a lot of characters that they've made absolutely horrid. I mean, look at Jean Grey. You know, I don't know how many of you read the original X-Men, or because I read them when I was growing up. And Jean Grey was always this very nice girl. She was ultra helpful. All she wanted to do was help, right?
She was
And now
nice to Wolverine.
she was nice to everybody. She was ultra super nice person. And what have they done now? She's this mean, angsty. She breaks all the rules. She's nasty. She takes, Bobby and makes him gay. I mean, you know, and that's what that's not my opinion. That's what they did in the comic book, by the way. You know, I mean, but it's just, what are you doing? You're totally writing the character out of character, and they're doing it across the board. You're absolutely right.
Well, they don't have respect for it. Like, apparently bubbly characters are too hard to write. I mean, really, when you really think about happy characters right now, the only one is really Harley Quinn, and she's written to be insane. So
Yeah.
they're trying to make it sound like if you are a happy character, you're insane. And I don't know if it's just because these writers are depressed. I mean, I know Tom King is very, very depressed. But it feels like, you know, comic characters can't be happy. Comic characters can't be positive. I don't know about you, but when I look up to somebody, especially when I was a child, I didn't want to look up to somebody that was dark and brooding. I wanted to look up to somebody that was positive, that made the best of the situations. Because that's in the end, I think that made me a better person, was looking for people that were positive.
Yeah, no, it's true. It absolutely affects you. If your hero is a person who is morally just and trying to do the right thing, and you know, in the impossible odds, that is a better role model than some angsty, hateful person who, you know, who has done all kind of horrible things in their life, and they're trying to maybe do the right thing, but you know, no, they're anti-hero. Of course, they have to be. Durkin says here that Superman doesn't always do the right thing necessarily, but he always tries to do what is right over what he wants or thinks might be a better solution or an easier solution. True. It is true. But in the end, he is about everyone else, not himself.
So one of the only things I actually remember from, because, you know, I did watch the Justice League cartoon when I was younger, and one thing that really stuck out to me from Superman was his and I don't remember the full speech, but he's fighting someone. I don't remember who it was, but I just remember Superman getting up and he's talking to him. He's like, I live in a world of cardboard. And
Darkseid. He's fighting Darkseid. Yeah.
Okay, and he gives them this really powerful speech, and I just remember sitting there like, Superman's really cool.
He is.
Yeah, he
Those
is
are
really
great.
cool.
That was a great episode. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Wright says that Professor Geek has a great series on Superman. It recommended his channel to. He recommends this channel to everyone. Yes, Professor Geek does have a good series on Superman. If you guys haven't checked him out, you should do that. Maybe one of our mods can throw the link up to Professor Geek on YouTube. He has very interesting ideas. He's on Mike every now. Mike S. Miller's channel, the Blacklist Universe, every now and then too. Yeah, everyone's agreeing. They saw that episode where he fighting Darkseid. It is a great episode. But anyway, this is supposed to be a half-hour show, and we're an hour and a half in. So I blame Booster, of course.
My bad. I'm so chatty.
You are super chatty,
My
yes.
chatty
But anyway, this was a great conversation today, though. I really enjoyed it. First of all, we dealt with the idea of what is Comicsgate to us, which is cool. We covered some interesting ongoing news, and then we ended with Superman. And some of you will agree, and some of you disagree. But I've always felt that Superman. I come from a generation that still had the real Superman, but I've always believed that Superman is this thing that transcends comics, and he's a symbol of goodness. And it's sad that they're so desperate to kill and destroy that. And it seems, if you look at what they're doing, they are desperate to do so. But anyway, we've lost Booster for some reason. But he's got to go. Oh, he has to do something. That's right. Thank you very, very much for coming, Booster. We appreciate you being here. Pope, why don't you go ahead and say goodbye to the folks?
Goodbye, everybody.
All right. Thank you. And Denali, why don't you go and give your closing comments, sir?
Sure. So on a milestone, we have made 100 members on Fan Speak
Yes, we have.
Facebook page. So thank you guys for joining and sharing, and making us, helping us grow that community. We're nothing without you. So, and thank you for tuning in for us and listening to us talk and rant these nights. So we're, again, nothing without you guys. So we humbly thank you for joining us, and I hope that you have a good night or morning,
Yeah.
or wherever you may be.
Yeah, well, thank you, Tank. Tank says later, folks. He's got to go. He said, "Great show." Thank you very much, Tank. And of course, I second what Denali said. And we're really enjoying what we're doing. We're having a lot of fun. Some of these topics are a little bit more serious, but we're certainly looking at them in a light way, in a funny way, because it's just you have to laugh at this nonsense. But we do appreciate you all coming on. Thank you very much for being part of it. And as you notice, we're growing every day, getting bigger and bigger, which means more people to come in and talk, and then more people to join us. So I know some of you are shy about maybe getting up here in front of the camera, as it were. But as you notice, we all use, for the most part, icons. So you're not actually in front of the camera. This is, if you've never done YouTube before, this feels a lot more like radio, guys. So if you get up here, you're just speaking. You got your icon in front of you, and we want you to come up and be involved with us. Go to the Fan Speak page. Go to the Chester C. Busby III on Facebook and tell us, put me on the show. We want to get you here. We want to get you up talking to us. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be shy about it. Let your voice be heard, and come join us, and we'll have some laughs, and we'll talk about some interesting things. So keep in mind that we do this show every day except for Tuesday and Friday. On Tuesday, we have Bugbear's Basement at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And on Friday, of course, we have Fan Speak at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. Also, we will be doing the Drawn and Quartered Jake's channel this week on Wednesday, which is a great show. Those are a lot of fun. So please go check those out. Also, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe so we can continue to grow. So anyway, thank you guys very much for joining us. This was a fun show today. I really do appreciate it. So, all right. Later, guys. Thank you.
Wow.